You can look, but you can't touch. You keep dreaming on the stars above. You know, if you sit down and think about it, those lyrics don't make a lot of sense. But nevertheless, I'm John Retton with my review of WWE on A&E Biography, WWE Legends on the Bellas. Okay, the first part of this biography was certainly very, very jarring. I knew a little bit of the backstory, but not all of it, and this is shit that nobody should ever have to go through. Nobody. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what walk of life, what country, doesn't matter. Nobody should have to go through the stuff that Nikki and Brie had to go through. Let me know your thoughts on this biography in the comments, please. I do want to offer a warning for those that maybe haven't seen the biography yet, want to see my review, or just a trigger warning. There's going to be a few things I'm going to talk about, a little bit of language I will be cutting out, but this is going to be the serious part, and then we're going to get into some jokes, and we're going to get into some banter and some snark when we get to the wrestling days. So, they talk about how their parents became parents at age 19. The dad was a drug addict, had a lot of issues, was abusive, and it was a troubled childhood. Their brother JJ, I swear they have another brother. They have one brother, I believe, that is a complete raving lunatic, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. I swear they have two brothers. Maybe it is JJ. I don't know. Well, they got into sports at an early age, soccer or football for the rest of the civilized world, because we call it soccer, because we here in America are very, very weird like that. We have to have our own label on things. And we have to have other things that go absolutely fucked up. By the way, sorry, quick message. Speaking of things that are fucked up, the fact that shirts like this have to exist. But anyway, the Bellas get into soccer, especially Nikki. Nikki is really, really excited. It's her outlet. She gets into athletics. And it's a tough thing to do. I only ever played it in gym. It's not exactly easy. I mean, I was a great goalie because I could just take the ball and spike people in the faces when I didn't like them. Did the same thing in volleyball. I was never asked to join a team for some reason, but nevertheless, they talked about, as far as competing in soccer, and the exact quote was, you didn't have to fight to get a spot. You didn't have to fight other women to get a spot. And, I mean, I guess that's true. There's always healthy competition in team sports, though. And then I'm going to gloss over some colorful language. Nikki suffered her innocence being taken away, as a way I'll put it, at age 15. And again, she suffered the same horrible, act done to her at age 17. I don't care who you are. You don't fucking do that to somebody. You do not take advantage of somebody like that. Don't ever fucking... You ever have fucking done that, fuck you, and you don't deserve to be on this fucking goddamn planet. You should be in jail or worse. You shouldn't be on this goddamn planet. So yeah, it was terrible, and that was just some jarring shit. I mean, I will say credit to anybody that is willing to be open about that, because that's never easy to relive that stuff. It's just never easy. And then smash cut to Christmas of 1999. Sometime around that, the dad had gone off gallivanting with another woman, and, well, Nikki and Brie left. They said, F it, we're done. And then they basically decided, we're not going to come home until the dad's out of the house, because he was abusive, all this stuff and everything, and they didn't want to be around him. There was a bunch of other stuff I'm sure they didn't touch on. I feel bad for their mother, because she had some form of cancer. I don't remember if it was brain or what. It is funny that at the time, husband, and now I'm sure soon-to-be ex-husband of the Bella's mother, Johnny Ace, John Laurinaitis, was nowhere to be found on this biography. Gee, I wonder why. It could have anything to do with the fact that he cheated on his wife and, dipped his pen in the company ink that was Vince's paralegal. Might talk about that Vince McMahon stuff at some point in another video, but yeah, Johnny Ace, nowhere to be found on this at all. Considering that Johnny Ace was, I'll talk about that here in a little bit, but Johnny Ace was a reason why the Bellas and others of that era were hired basically just for their looks. Good, bad, or indifferent, passion for wrestling or not, they were hired out of swimsuit catalogs and everything. But back to 1999, they basically wanted their mother to be happy. Their mother didn't deserve to be cheated on. I mean, and again, talking about the John Laurinaitis stuff. And then they decided to move off to, before they moved away and did their own thing, Brie fell for a guy named Bear. Brie and Bear, it just sounds like It sounds like the Brother Bear spinoff on Disney Plus, in all honesty, but she loved him. He was an artist. He really, really was great to her, and then unfortunately was killed in a drunk driving accident. So, geez, I mean, good Lord, that's just, you almost just want to walk off the face of the earth after that, for God's sakes, after hearing that stuff. Because nobody should have to go through that shit. They decided they wanted to make a new life for themselves. So they moved to San Diego. So they got work at Hooters. They moved to San Diego, rather. Not just San Diego's. They moved to multiple San Diego. No, they moved to San Diego. Got work at Hooters. I believe Liv Morgan, current SmackDown Women's Champion, as of the recording of this review. I say that because I fear it's going to be a short reign. It shouldn't be. Many, been plenty of women. I talked to a few women that I knew coming out of college that worked at a couple Hooters that were in Washington. I don't think they're still there, but they pay well, and hey, if you can put up with the fact that there are lecherous, creepy men and women, if we're being perfectly honest, it's not exactly, from what I understand, despite the outward appearance, they actually tend to treat their employees well, despite the gear. But they worked there for 2.5 years, and then Nikki got an offer, like after her shin had been destroyed, and she wasn't able to play soccer. She ended up basically just feeling like her life is over, this kind of stuff. And then her shin was feeling better. She got an offer to go play women's soccer in Italy. I'd love to play with some women in Italy. That's going to get me a lot of hate. Moving on from that. And Monica Bellucci's Italian. So moving on from that. This is where things get to the wrestling time. So I want to say before we get to the wrestling time, if you think that I'm not going to have a lot of snark and I'm not going to have a lot of jokes as far as the Bella's in-ring career and everything, you can stop watching right now. Because as far as wrestlers, as far as personalities, I was never a fan of the Bellas as TV personalities, as wrestling personalities. I always felt that as far as how they were used to their strengths, which weren't much, and as far as their wrestling careers, I found their wrestling careers to kind of be a joke. So there you go. That's your fair warning right there. Am I going to dump on everything? No. I'm going to have some reasonable points here, but I just wanted to say that right there. The stuff they went through earlier in their lives and the other personal stuff, that's stuff that nobody should have to go through, and I feel bad that they did. So, that's your warning. So, the Divas Search. That was May 19, 2006. Oh, God, the See No Evil debut. I remember going to see No Evil in theaters. It was shit. They did a sequel. I don't know why. Man, Glenn Jacobs, former Kane, was a vicious killer and a merciless son of a bitch. God, art imitating life, if Knox County says anything. So, they were... Let's just say the early interviews didn't exactly go all that well. Brie, I do remember seeing some of this stuff, and Brie had mentioned the reason that she had the bear claw tattoos is because of a high school crush, bear that died in a car accident. Absolutely terrible way to go drunk driving. Don't fucking drunk drive. Just don't fucking do it. Get an Uber. Usos. So then Kristen Perotti, I think is how it's said, the Senior Vice President of Entertainment Relations for WWE. They were so captivating. I'm not saying that they're terrible people, but come on. I have seen better personalities than a head of cabbage. So let's move on from that. Then we zoomed to Deep South Wrestling, which didn't last very long. Noted bully and piece of shit Bill DeMott, the human joke that he was, Hugh Morris, and General Rection. No wonder he took his frustrations out on other people, because even though he wasn't a bad worker, he had those gimmicks. So, they wanted to be pro wrestlers. Johnny Ace hired the Bellas and various others, so many other goddamn women, back in the Ohio Valley Wrestling days, out of lingerie and swimsuit catalogs. You hire people based on their looks, okay, sometimes you're going to get some that turn out well, and this goes for men or women, doesn't matter. Straight, LGBTQ, doesn't matter. If you're cut out for wrestling, you will do it. If you're not cut out for wrestling, you'll flame out. And a lot flamed out. A lot of the Diva Search contestants just didn't work out all that well. There was that the first Carmella, who was a goddamn twat. Christy Hemme came out of one of those. Layla came out of those. Maria Kanellis. Well, Maria Kanellis. I'll just call her that right there, well, because that's what her name is. And a few others. There were others that came out of the various Diva Searches. Diva Search also was a way to basically just objectify women and stuff like that. And let's be honest, at this point, while you're having Trish and Lita and Victoria, Molly Holly to an extent, I think Molly Holly was done by sometime in 2005. You even had Ivory that could still go to it. Jaqueline, thank you very much, Derb. I'll never unhear that. They, everybody's fighting for all this, all this TV time. Everybody's fighting to actually have women taken seriously. And, China had left in 2001. You have to wonder, had things worked out, what would have happened, how China could have worked in the women's division or still work with the guys, whatever. I think it would have been interesting to have her work with Trish and a few others. But nevertheless, that's another story for another day. The women were not being taken all that seriously. I mean, you had Nydia, who came out of Ohio Valley Wrestling and then was made the hit girlfriend Jamie Noble. We got double wide, honey. And then she was made blind and then was out of the company by late 2004. Gail Kim. They didn't know what the fuck to do with her twice. My goodness, one of the most talented women to have ever done, at least in the last 20 years. But the whole point is they hired a lot of women for their look. They wanted to be pro wrestlers. Okay, I'm not saying they didn't learn to love wrestling. Maybe they did. They moved to Tampa. We see still pictures of Dr. Tom Pritchard, who is a great trainer, one of the members of the Heavenly Bodies. And they felt that the other women didn't want them to be there because it was Florida Championship Wrestling. They would take liberties with them, or not take liberties, but kind of like force feed them forearms and this kind of stuff, or elbows. They would beat them up and be like, okay, well, that's just going to motivate us and everything. I mean, you had Rosa Mendez there, who really wasn't good in the ring. She wasn't. And she turned her life around great. Alicia Fox also deserves a bit of a shout there. There's a lot of women deserve a shout. Natty and the Bellas bonded. And then there was Christy Vane, a name I know, and I just can't recall seeing a match with her. Who was Christy Vane in WWE? Was she another gimmick? Was it Cherry? I don't think it was Cherry. So, you're like a duck in developmental. Quack. I was just going to say that. Are you serious? We are so in sync. Mommy, look, the turtle. Hello. Oh. ASDF fans are dying laughing in the comments right now. So, they have a debut on, I believe it was the SmackDown right after SummerSlam 2008. Well, Nikki ends up suffering a busted nose. I believe it was during a scrap where Jack Swagger, no idiot, and Julio, let's see. Julio Pop Sanchez, something. Papi Chulo Sanchez, whatever the hell it was. Papi Chulo, I always think I say Rios. He's doing, they get describing Nikki, unfortunately, eats an inadvertent elbow. I mean, it's terrible that it happened. And, well, Freddie Prinz Jr. chimes in. Former WWE writer and former heartthrob in the first two I Know What You Did Last Summer movies. They made 3, believe it or not, I reviewed them all. And Fever Pitch and Head Over Heels. And, yeah, Freddie Prinz Jr. is a passionate guy when it comes to wrestling. How the women didn't have any good storylines. Any storylines they had weren't much, basically had no meat to them or whatever. They gave Natalya a farting gimmick in 2010. Was it 2009 or 2010? Bad. The Necessary Evil Stephanie McMahon. That's what I'm calling her. Stephanie is as evil as her dad. Just saying that right now. Just saying that. I mean, okay, maybe I don't think she's paying any hush money to people like Jimmy Snuka, but let's move on. So, other seamstresses helped the Bellas get their gear up to code because they couldn't wear certain things, get the colors or whatever. And Victoria, could Victoria beat me up like that is what I noted. Then they do the twin switch, which is actually called twin magic. They're forgetting their own terminology. And then they did over the next few months. And I do remember this and like, okay, the whole twin thing has been done in wrestling before, but whatever. These women obviously don't quite know what they're doing. And I could have said that about them in 2018 and been just as accurate, but they did that and then they wanted to reveal them as twins. Then they got shuffled to the background. They weren't really wrestling all that much. They were the celebrity guest hosts. They bounce around like this because the celebrity guest host stuff, I believe, is from 2009 to 2011. They do the Daniel Bryan thing, the Bryan Danielson now in AEW. They do the whole thing where they're going to take his virginity. Oh, we thought you were a virgin. No, I'm a vegan. Vince is an idiot. Vince will burn in hell for bad shit like this. And also a lot of bad shit he's done to people in general. First of all, I resent your tone. And Brie and Brian end up together. Their love grows. And look, they seem happy. They seem like a genuine couple. That's great. The celebrity guest host stuff was shit, for the most part. There were a few that weren't too bad. Hugh Jackman was very good, but they were basically just arm candy for them. And then Superstars was going to be on WWE.com. And they decided to wrestle there because nobody wanted to wrestle on Superstars or the syndicated shows, but they did. They're like, we'll get work. And that, God, I still love, though, one commentary line between Taz and JR when they were on SmackDown. They're twins. They're identical twins. Riveting fucking commentary right there. God, JR was checked out. Gorgeous, identical twins. I mean, if you're into that, that's fine. And then Divas Championship. One of the ugliest championships in wrestling history. Period. Fucking rotten. No amount of talent in any of the women could make that look good. So, Brie won the title. Quick loss. They left for 11 months, about a year. They glossed over the fact that once they came back, there was this 8-person tag that got cut from WrestleMania 29. I think it was cut from WrestleMania 29, if I recall correctly. And that was it. And then we have the Total Divas era. Now, look, I used to watch Total Divas. I actually watched it for a couple years. And while I admit there was somewhat trash reality TV, you know what? At least it seemed like the people involved were trying to do something. Then it just got ridiculous, and I stopped watching it. And it kept going and going and going. And then they got Total Bellas. Further proof that E! Network really doesn't give a fucking shit about quality programming. Then again, they used to run Keeping Up with the Kardashians, as it were. Every Kardashian, every Jenner of any generation has always been trash and always will be, by the way. But then they talk about the Bella Army. The Bella Army is about as lively as Jim Jones's cult. If you know, you know. I know that's going to give me some hate, and I don't care, because if you like the Bellas, that's great. I'm not saying you guys can't. But then the Daniel Bryan relationship gets more, like, not exposed. It grows more on the show. And then Brie mode, where she gets drunk, because, yeah, that's exactly what's attractive. People getting drunk all the time. Whatever. Nikki improved in the ring, they said. Well, she had nowhere to go but up, so she really didn't have to try hard. I'm just saying, look, Nikki, people say Nikki was great in the ring. Nikki got better. She got acceptable. I'm sorry, there were women killing themselves in NXT and killing themselves in Impact. They were way better workers. Now, is that the fault of the Bellas for not being given enough time in their words? No. But were the Bellas ever going to be good? If the Bellas had gone to NXT when Paige and Emma and a few others were tearing it up, they would have been booed out of the fucking building. Not for lack of trying, just because they weren't any good. And they glossed over the Paige Emma match at NXT Arrival. They just gloss over that shit. Gloss over the fact that was an actual women's match with actual talent in it. They talk about the broken leg that Nikki suffered. They also briefly mentioned the women being sent out in the literal death slot because the crowd was dead after Undertaker lost his streak. And there were about 18,000 women human centipede together. It was uncomfortable for everybody. You also had Vicky Guerrero there. Miss, I vote for the wall. Yeah, fuck you, Vicky. You should have gone with Eddie in 2005. Eddie should be here instead of you. Okay, that's cruel. Let's get back to the review. The Stephanie Brie feud. Okay, Nikki's out with a stress fracture for 12 weeks. I remember that. She's on crutches, all this. Then the Stephanie Brie feud. I don't fucking care if people find this controversial, like I give a damn. This was one of the worst goddamn things. Yes, they were trying to get Brie over with the fans. And then Brie's like, you can't fire me. I quit. Natty, and I love Natty. What a talent. What a good person. What a talented individual. She's a cat lady. I love cats. Natty seems like a sweetheart. Apparently, he's a sweetheart to her fans. She was actually quoted saying, Stephanie has been part of so many iconic moments and storylines. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Stephanie's been part of some great storylines and brought them down to the fucking Earth's core because Stephanie is a charisma vacuum. And then, the whole I quit thing. Brie quits so Bryan doesn't have to relinquish the championships, but he has to because he has a neck injury. And then Nikki becomes the person to take over for Brie, because Nikki comes back from her leg injury. And, the fans started getting behind us. Here we go. The fans started getting behind us. The fans were getting behind AJ and Paige, more Paige J, as it were. By this point, Beth Phoenix was gone. So many other talented women were gone. Yeah, I'm sure some wanted to see the women get longer matches. WWE had conditioned the fans to treat the women's matches like a bathroom break, which is not fair to the women that were actually going out there and trying. Let me be clear. But then, Fearless Nikki was born. Jesus Christ, God, could you be a little more humble? SummerSlam 2014. Brie versus Stephanie. It was one of the worst matches in SummerSlam history. It was given 11 to 14 pissing minutes. Stephanie versus Trish at No Way Out was better, and that was a mess, but it was a fun mess. You expected Brie, that couldn't wrestle her way out of a wet paper bag, and Stephanie, who never could wrestle, to actually go out there and do whatever. And then Nikki shows up, and she hits Brie. Oh no, sister fisting action. I usually have to go to a different kind of website to see this. Always delete your search history. And they skipped over the I wish you died in the womb. Remember that? The growing up Bella segment? Remember that? Remember that bullshit? It was terrible. Brie then helps Nikki, after becoming her servant for 30 days, she helps Nikki beat AJ for the Divas Championship, that ugly-ass championship. It's new with Angel's Wings. So, their match was going to have 15 minutes. Then it was cut to 5 minutes. Hey, can you do it in a couple minutes? Now, they shouldn't have cut it down past 5 minutes, but I don't know why you would have thought that AJ could have gotten 15 minutes out of Nikki Bella. They also skipped over this talent isn't sexually transmitted promo. I wonder why. Probably because it's true. Yeah, just going to say it. AJ was right. She was. She may have her own issues, but you know what? She was right there. So, the match kept getting cut. And the match time kept getting cut. And then on the February 23rd, 2015 edition of Raw, which I believe was the Raw after Fastlane 2015. The first ever Fastlane. Should have been the last ever Fastlane, because Fastlane was shit. They gave the middle finger to the people, or to the production staff, because it was like, they had 2 minutes with entrances. So they just hit a finish on Emma and covered her 1, 2, 3. This is about a month after, or a year after, Paige and Emma tore the house down in Full Sail. And give Divas a chance. Vince is like, we hear you. Well, we hear you. Keep watching. Please, keep watching. I'm sorry I ran the fans off. God, now I'm out of my own company. Shit. Ha, ha, ha. He has his own, he has all that stock in it. Boy, that's going to be a fun video to talk about Vince. And the women's wrestlers were killing themselves in NXT. Becky, Charlotte, Sasha, Bayley, others. There were others. Please tell me there were. I actually don't remember who the others were, but there were women having great goddamn matches in NXT because they were allowed to. Brie wants to retire to start a family. They started flummoxing with the timeline here. So there was a step spot that Nikki wanted to take. She wanted to take a steel step spot. The thing is, they were going to have a cage match, and they grounded the steps instead of having it where they would fly. They would separate, and it would make a cool sound. She hits and basically causes damage to her neck. Her collarbone, her neck, everything. That's it. She kept doing the rack attack where she would pick people up and drop them on her goddamn neck, which I would imagine that probably contributed to the whole thing. And then she was doing cortisone shots because she was the champion. She didn't want to give it up. No, she probably didn't want to give it up. And I don't fucking blame her. But at this point, it's like, it is about your health and everything, and she eventually did have to stop doing this shit, don't do this anymore. Also, the Nikki Bella title reign was fucking spiteful. Am I saying she wanted to do it this way? No. But AJ Lee had, a 299-day reign? And Nikki, or 290, was it 290 or 299? I'm trying to remember. But Nikki got just over that. Probably because of who AJ Lee was married to, because Vince McMahon is a spiteful son of a bitch. Again, no Johnny Ace. No Johnny Ace at all during this whole damn thing. I wonder fucking why. So, they go over, they gloss over her losing to Charlotte, finally, which nullified that whole goddamn thing because she should have lost on the Raw. She didn't, so she wouldn't beat the record. She would tie the record. And then she lost at Night of Champions 6 days later. And then Juan Uribe, who I thought was a baseball player, but apparently he's a doctor. He's hitting home runs in the surgery department. Was there a baseball player named Juan Uribe? Answers in the comments, please. And surgery, you're completely done wrestling. Well, the surgery was a success. They show her and Cena's relationship a bit. We have the 10-woman tag on the pre-show. Eva Marie was part of that, which meant that match had no right to exist. Oh, Lana was also there, which meant that it was actually 8 women and 2 slugs. So then, Brie retired. She's going to go have a family. The Divas title dies, and the Women's Championship is reborn. See, if they never brought back the Divas Champion, or they never brought in the Divas Championship, it just continued the lineage of the Women's Championship, then it would have been fine. But they couldn't do that. That would make too much fucking sense. And then, Brie becomes a mom. Nikki returns to SummerSlam. They skip over a feud with Carmella. Oh, well. No big loss. Who doesn't want to skip over footage of Carmella? I mean, everybody does. Everybody that I would think that would appreciate wrestling. If you like Carmella, that's fine. Mania 33 mixed tag. The proposal heard round the world. We knew it was bullshit. They broke up because Nikki wanted kids. Nikki then got a call from Vince to face off against Rowdy Ronda Rousey the Raccoon at Evolution at the Nassau Coliseum, where Bunkhouse Stampede ran. Let me tell you right now, that venue is a goddamn dumpster. Just atmosphere sucks. Terrible. But they did draw a pretty goddamn big crowd. A sellout, or at least what they said was a sellout. And I'm talking about the company, not the women. Evolution was a pretty good show. And of all the choices for the main event, Rousey versus Nikki Bella was certainly one of them. It was rotten, because Rousey at that point the bloom was starting to come off the rose, and Nikki Bella, look, I didn't want to see Nikki Bella in the ring there. And by the way, they skipped over also when Brie accidentally injured Liv Morgan, and she should have been canned right there, I'm just saying. Because let me kick carelessly and let me kick somebody in the head and, oh, wow, that caused an issue? What? Me talking about this meant the Riot Squad, despite not working in the same damn company, lost another 6-woman tag team match. There's a callback. So yeah, Nikki loses. She retires. Why was there never an Evolution 2? Electric Woman Boogaloo? Nikki meets Artemis Fowl, or whatever the fuck his name. I don't know. I don't know what his name is. Artem? Atrium? Come as you are to my mall, to my atrium. Yeah. I actually don't know what his name is. I thought it was Artemis. They meet on Dancing with the Stars. Nikki becomes pregnant, and Brie becomes pregnant again. They have kids. They got a big, beautiful family. They return at the Royal Rumble. That was something. And they're in the Hall of Fame. And they've got their own wine company. Brie Mode! I could have been probably a lot meaner, but you know what? With the idea of all the stuff going on, with the stuff in the beginning of this, I decided to just pick on the wrestling characters. I am going to be putting the number for Reign, which is, look up the name. I'm not going to say the words here. I'm going to be putting that there, and reach out. Reach out if you have gone through that, or if you know somebody who has gone through that. Hopefully they can reach out. But yeah, that biography was certainly something. I went a bit longer than I planned, but I had a lot of shit to talk about. So agree, disagree with what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.